Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and as you can tell from the countdown clock, the lesson is about to get started. In case you're new with us, there's a few things I'd like to show you to help you throughout the lesson. So this lesson is about reharmonization. That means we're going to take an existing song and we're going to find new chords to play over the same melody. Now, that means that you're probably going to need to already know about chords and keys and probably intervals and probably have already several songs that you can play well enough that they actually sound like the song. But even if you can't do that, you might pick up some interesting theory bits along the way. So feel free to join us. The goal, though, is not this song. It's not about the song that we're working on. It's really about taking the concepts you like, the reharmonizations, the substitutions that you like from this lesson, and then applying them to other songs that you already know how to play. These lessons are always guided and shaped by your questions, and if you're live with us today, there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is in the public live chat, and the other is the Ask Jamin a Question button, where you can ask me a question privately, and I won't share your identity in case you're afraid that your question is stupid. But it's not. If you're in the archives, though, then just open up the survey. At the end of that, there's a place where you can ask your question. I will say I frequently get questions from students in the archives watching a lesson from 6 months ago, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So please try to be as specific as possible. If you're watching this at LearnPianoLive.com, there should be a PDF and an MP3 button right next to this video. The PDF will often have additional video links inside so you can get more in-depth instruction on each of the topics. And if you're the kind of person who likes to print out the PDF so you can make the same notes on your physical version as I'm making during the lesson, now would be the time to do that. The MP3 is just a play-along track so you can practice more after the lesson. In traditional lessons, a teacher is going to actually present some new concept for maybe 5 or 10 minutes every couple weeks. The rest of the time is going to be spent applying and refining those concepts. Well, here I'm spouting off hours of new information every week, so it's totally unreasonable to expect you to actually absorb all of that. Instead, the goal of these live lessons is for you to find some little nugget of something that makes sense, but is a bit of a challenge, and for you to go practice it, because practice is where all the improvement's going to happen. So don't feel bad if you have to leave the live lesson when you find that little thing that you're going to practice. And of course, if I'm going too fast, you can always rewind the live lessons or replay in the archives as much as you want. If these live lessons start feeling random or meandering, it's because they are, on purpose. So if you're the kind of person who wants classical training with a step-by-step method, then you're going to want to check out Kloppel Academy on the website. It's included in your live lesson subscription, so you can do both or either. And the upper levels are seriously hard work, but it's going to take you all the way from ground zero all the way up to being ready to enter any major music college as a piano major in classical or jazz. And thankfully, I think that's about all we need to cover before the lesson. So if you'd stick around afterwards and fill out the survey, I would love your feedback. But for now, let's have some fun and make some music. Welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. My name is Jamin, and this is the chat moderator and camera operator, the incomparable Kendra.
Oh, I like that intro. Thank you. Guess what? So I went roller skating with one of my best friends this week for the first time in like 2 years.
Oh.
And it was so much fun. Like, I used to roller skate all the time.
Really?
When I was younger, yeah. And so, I mean, I was like really wobbly at first because I hadn't skated in so long. But by the end, I was having a lot of fun. So... yeah, that's my exciting news, is that I went roller skating.
I'm so old. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's not like I had gone roller skating a whole lot, but
yeah. Righty. Yes. So you said I hadn't been roller skating. I was like, whoa, she's never been roller skating. And then she like, in like 2 years. And I was like, last time I went roller skating was before you were born.
Nice. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Of course. The incomparably young Kendra. Here we go. You're what, 17?
I'm 17.
You're not young. You're practically an adult.
Almost.
Here we go.
Getting
We're supposed
so
to be
close.
reharming this song, and you need to turn on the
Got
keys
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Cool. So then,
right now.
yeah, nice. Just swing it over to the
Other computer.
Yep,
Yeah, I'll figure this out eventually.
Okay. Cool. In the meantime, last week we talked about all the chords we were supposed to play and how to play that along with the melody. So it ended up being something like this. you want more of that, we can go back to the other lesson from before. For this week, we want to change around some of these chords. And honestly, like when we do these jazz tunes and we try to reharm them, it's usually a lot more difficult than doing like the regular pop tunes, because a lot of times they're already doing the things that we use the reharm concepts for, as far as like moving through the circle of fifths and adding in sevens and nines and stuff. In fact, the first two things that we're supposed to do on each reharm lesson are add sevens and nines and sixes, which they're already in the song, and then play the 5 of any chord before it, which in this song, the whole thing is just 5 chords, basically, a 5 going to a 5 going to a 5 going to a 5. In other words, A is the 5 of D, and D is the 5 of G, and G is the 5 of C, and C is the 5 of F. Yeah, so we call these cycle moves, as in like cycling through the circle of fifths. So these are all kind of like cycling. The only places we don't have those are like the F to the B. That one is not a cycle move, but B to an E, and E to an A to a D, and a D to a G, and a G to a C, those are all cycle moves. A C to an E is not a cycle move, but E to A, and A to D, and D to G, and G to C, those are all cycle moves. So as you can see, like almost the entire thing is cycle moves. The only place we would be able to throw in a 5 of something is in those 2 spots right there. And usually if we were doing like a regular pop tune, that would be plenty of 5s. We wouldn't need to add in anything else really. So we can mess with the chord qualities on these a little bit. And so I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So wherever the melody is not the 3 of the chord, yikes, some people are lost already. That's fine. If you go back to the other lesson, you'll learn how to play the chord. If you already know how to play the chord, the 3 of the chord is just the second note up, not the root of the chord, but the next note up. So on an A minor 7, like we talked about last week, these notes right here, the A would be the root, and the 3 would be the C right here. So then as long as the melody is not the C, then we can kind of change around this A minor, we can change to an A major, or if it was the other way around, we change an A major into an A minor. So we can kind of like tweak these a little bit, major and minor, wherever we want to, wherever we have a cycle move. Let me go back and try saying that exact same thing one more different way. If you've got a minor chord and it goes a cycle move to the next chord, you can sometimes make that major as long as the melody is not the 3 of the chord. So let's try this first one here, and maybe by a couple examples, this will make more sense. So on Fly Me to the Moon, right here, the melody is C, and the 3 of an A minor is a C. So we can't really do anything with that one. We can't turn that into a major because the melody is the part that we would turn into major. So we can't do it right there. But if we go Fly Me to the Moon, now we've got a D minor 7 right here, just like we played last week. And the 3 that we would change from a D minor to a D major is an F. So as long as we're not playing an F in the melody, then we're safe to maybe turn this into a D major and see if we like that or not. So let's see what the melody is. Fly me to the moon. Bummer, it's an F. So we can't mess with that D at all. So hopefully you're seeing the process here of like you play the chord and you see if the melody is the 3 of that chord, and if it is, you can't change it. And let me play among the stars. So as it turns out, this song right here plays almost entirely 3s all the way through the entire song. So if I just play like the root of the chord and the 3 of the chord right here, root and 3, just playing those 2 things through the first line. That was almost the melody to the song. So it goes, fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. So it's actually cycling through, not only is it cycling through the chords, like through the circle of fifths, but it's also really emphasizing the 3 of each of those chords, because arguably, the 3 is the most important note of the chord. It gives you the most information about the chord. So if we're on a C chord, like you already know, like if the bass player's playing a C, you already know it's a C chord. So the only question after that is like, what's built on top of the C? And the most colorful note that we have on top of the C would be the 3 of the chord. So if it's this, we know it's got the feeling of C major. If it's this, we know it's got the feeling of C minor. So 3 is like the most important note of any chord. Probably the next most important note would be the 7, because the 7 gives you so much extra color in there. So right there, that'd be the 3 and the 7, probably the 2 most important notes, and they're so important that they're called guide tones. And if you're in Classical Academy level 4 or higher, you're already starting to deal with some guide tones, just taking a C chord and playing the guide tones of those two, the 3 and the 7. Guide tones just means 3 and 7. So then on the A minor, those would be the 2 most important notes right there, the 3 and the 7, and then D minor, that'd be the 3 and the 7. Okay, cool. Kendra, I'm gonna have you zoom out here so we can see more of these notes. And we've pointed out now that we've got almost entirely cycle moves, and we've got almost entirely 3s of the chord. That makes this song really hard to mess with. We're gonna try to find a way. But let's go back here and just pull up our circle, our spinning wheel here. Since we've already basically done these 2 things, we've added 7s and 9s and 6s like we did last week, and then we're already playing the 5 of each chord before it, and we tried to turn some of them into like major 5s, but it didn't work because the melody was sitting right on top of that 3, so we couldn't turn the minor chords into major chords. So now we're down to the spinning wheel. That was a lot of words. Tritone subdominant chords. Why not? Why not? The very first thing. I swear it's only like 1/16 of the whole wheel, but it seems to come up every single lesson. And I think it's everybody's favorite thing to do here, so that's cool. So we're just gonna take any dominant chord. That's a chord that does not have minor on it, and it does have 7. So like this thing right here, that's a dominant chord. That's a dominant chord, a G7 or a C7 or an E7 or an A7. Or a G7. These are all dominant chords. It means that the chord is a major chord, and that the 7 is a whole step below the root of the chord. So in other words, that's our G, and then the 7 part would be 1 whole step below the root of the chord. So that right there, that's a G7. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna tritone sub those, which just means we're gonna go 3 tones, steps above or below that chord. So on a G, we would just go 3 whole steps, 1 whole step, 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps. We'd play this chord right here, this dominant chord. We'd play a C sharp 7 instead of a G7. Like literally just straight up, get rid of the G7, play a C sharp 7 instead. And the reason that this works is because the guide tones for the C sharp 7 and the guide tones for the G7 are the same notes. So we said the guide tones were the 3 and the 7. So this is our G7 chord, and the 3 of G is a B, and the 7 of a G7 is an F. So those are our guide tones right there for a G7 chord. Well, on a C sharp 7, that's our C sharp, and then the 7 would be right there. So that's our C sharp 7. Well, the 7 of a C sharp is B, and the 3 of a C sharp is F. B and F. So we have the same guide tones. The most important notes out of a G chord, out of a G7, are the 2 also most important notes of the C sharp dominant chord, the B and the F. So that's kind of why that works, because the most important notes still are staying the same, even though you're changing the root of them. So we'd play a C sharp 7 there, and then right here we could play the tritone sub of a C7. And if you're watching this in the archives, then go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what the tritone sub for a C7 would be. We'd go there. We'd go up 3 whole steps, which is the same thing as 6 half steps. So 1 whole step, 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps. So an F sharp 7 would be the tritone sub of a C7. So far what we have is A minor 7, fly me to the moon, and let me, this is gonna be interesting, right here, play among the stars. That's kind of cool, actually. Fly me to the moon. And then right here, we would go to an F sharp 7 before we go to the F major 7. Let me see what spring is like on. And then right here, instead of the E7, we would tritone sub that, and we would go the tritone sub of an E7. That's our E. 1 whole step, 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps would be like a B flat 7 right there. So it'd be Jupiter and Mars. That's interesting too. Let me try all that. Fly. know if I like that last one. Let's try it again. Maybe if I play it right, it'll sound good. It might be growing on me. One more time. Actually, yes, the more I play it, the more I like it. Let me see what... That's interesting. Last one we could tritone sub would be this guy right here, this A7. At this point, we're tritone subbing probably too much because we've done like every single dominant chord. We just threw in the tritone sub for it. But for the point of exercise here, let's find out what the tritone sub of an A would be, an A7. It would be 1 whole step, 2 whole steps, 3 whole steps. That would be an E flat 7 right there. So that would be in their words. Hold my hand. Okay, let's try all of this. Fly me to the moon and land me. Okay. Interesting. So that's a whole lot of tritone subbing. My guess is I'm going to want to back out some of that stuff and go back to the regular dominant chords once we get whatever this thing is right here. After alter the extensions of dominant chords. Yeah, so this is something I want to change here. So this is just where we are going to take the extensions of the chord of any of the dominant chords, which we need to go back and find some dominant chords. Or we could just go back. We can go further into the song. We can take the 9, the 11, and the 13, and we can just alter them. So like for a 9, you could make that a flat 9 or a sharp 9. For an 11, you could make that a sharp 11. You can't really make it a flat 11 because a flat 11 just ends up being a 3. Let me show you that. So here's a C7 chord, for example. And then here's the 9, and here's the 11. So if you take that 11 and you sharp it, yeah, that's cool. That's an extra like color tone. Additional something in the song. But if you make it flat, if you flat the 11, then now we're just sitting on the 3, and that's not really new or interesting. So you could sharp the 11, you could sharp or flat the 9. This is the 9, so flat 9 or sharp 9, sharp 11, and then the 13, you can flat the 13, and that'd add in some new color right there. That'd be something different. If you sharp the 13, you just end up on the 7 again, and that's not really that interesting. So we could go 1, 3, 5, 7. Flat 9, sharp 9, sharp 11, flat 13. Yeah, that's kind of weird. So then we could alter any of those extensions for any of these chords. So I'm just going to say for this one, G, not 7. I'm going to say G alt, which just means pick it, alter it. You could just flat the 9 if you want, or you could just sharp the 9 if you want, or you could just sharp the 11. You don't have to do all of them at the same time. And then this one right here, let's say A alt as well, and you can just choose whichever altered chords you want. E alt right here. So we're just taking the dominant chords. So on the first half, the first A section, we're doing all the tritone sub things, and then on the next A section, we're doing all the altered chords. Let's see how that works. I might need to slow this thing down. It's interesting. Okay, actually, a lot of those almost really kind of worked. This G alt right here, I didn't really feel like that one worked. In other words, maybe. As long as I don't really emphasize that one right there, the sharp 9. If I just only put in the flat 13, I think that kind of works. My hand. In other trying to alter the melody to fit the chord, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. Darling, kiss me. That's that 9 thing again. So I could go, darling. Yeah, I'll just go with that flat 13 again. Darling, kiss me. So we have the second half would go other words. Hold my hand. In other words, it's like just a G augmented chord at that point. Darling, kiss me. Okay, one more time from the top. It'd be something like. What do we do there? Okay, that's interesting. There's some pretty cool chords in there. Let's do 1 or 2 more of these. Backdoor dominants. Okay, these are all having to do with dominant chords so far. We haven't really altered any of the non-dominant chords, but the idea is wherever we have a 5 that we want to go to, backdoor 2-5. Yep, okay, cool. We're going to do it. Backdoor 2-5. So wherever we have a dominant chord, we need to pick one of these. Maybe I'm trying to not pick one on purpose. Hey, Kendra, I need you to help me pick one of these randomly. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Yeah, let's pick something from these 2 lines right here. I need you to pick one of these dominant chords, the G, the A, or the G, or the E.
The second G.
The second G. So this guy right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a backdoor 2-5. So a backdoor dominant is just where you go to the flat 7 of the chord. So before we said go to the 5 of the chord, which means you go to this chord and you say, what would the 5 of that be? And whatever the 5 of that would be, you play that right here. Well, as it turns out, we're already playing the 5 of that, so that's cool. So that means that this is a dominant chord, and whatever we're about to do is hopefully going to work in this scenario. The scenario we're going for is the 5 of a chord. G is the 5 of the C. Okay, so in here we need 2 chords. We need a 2 and we need a 5. But we need a backdoor 2-5. A regular 2-5 would be, well, oops, you can't just write a 5 there, Jamin. The 5 of C would be a G, like we just said, and the 2 of that would be a D minor. So D minor to G to C. Hopefully you recognize that already as a 2-5-1. If not, whatever, that's cool. But instead of using that 2-5, we're gonna use the backdoor 2-5, which is the 2 to the 5. How do we want to say this? This 5 right here is going to be the flat 7 of this thing instead of the 5 of it. So it's just acting like a 5, but it's actually a flat 7. So if we go to a C, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7, and that would be the flat 7 right there. So this chord right here is going to be the B flat. That's going to act as the 5. Just trust me, it will, because of borrowed chords and stuff like that. Yeah, that term didn't need to make sense either. But we're going to go to the flat 7 instead of the 5. That's just a thing you can do, trust me. Now we're going to say the same thing we said before. If B flat was the 5, what would the 2 be? Well, if B flat was the 5, we'd be in the key of E flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the 2 would be 1, 2, F. So F minor to B flat is going to be our backdoor 2-5. And if you need some more help with that, you can come down here and say, if B flat was the 5, where would that key be? Let's see here, the 5. We're looking for the one that says B flat. That's this guy right here. And as we just said, probably too quickly a second ago, we would be in the key of E flat if B flat was the 5, and the 2 would be F minor. So we're going to go F minor to B flat. as our backdoor 2/5. I don't know how this is going to sound. This might be super funky, but we're going to play a F minor to B flat right there instead of the G. This will be interesting. Here we go. I didn't really like that one too much, and I had to alter the melody. But again, maybe it'll grow on me. Let's try it. Almost. I'm trying to fit it in there. The F minor to the B flat just isn't working for me. In other words, my hand. Almost. Yeah, F minor to B flat. Part of the reason is that whole 3 thing we were talking about at the beginning of the lesson. In this case, darling, kiss me. Dar is the would be the 3 of an F major chord. But this is not an F major chord, this is an F minor chord. So that's our F minor right there. But the melody is supposed to be that thing right there, so those are kind of conflicting with each other. What the chord is I'm supposed to play and what the melody actually is. So I'm trying to like alter the melody. Darling, kiss me. Darling, kiss me. Maybe I can do that. I'll change the melody. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. That might work. Other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling. Let's try it one more time. See if it sounds right in context. I kind of like it, actually. Let's do one more of these things. That was a backdoor 2/5. You know what? Maybe we should do one more backdoor 2/5 as well. Kendra?
Yes.
Yeah. One more. We need one more dominant chord here. We can pick the G7, the C7, the E7, the E flat 7, or the G7, or the A7, or the E7.
The C7.
The C7. Okay, that'll be interesting. So this guy right here, before we had tritone subbed it, but instead we're going to say, well, this is going into an F over here on the next line. And so if we're going to an F, the chord that we're going to play before that is going to be the flat 7 of F. And the flat 7 of F would be an E flat. And if E flat was the 5, the 2 would be a B flat. This is going to be so super weird. Yeah, this is going to be super, super weird. So a B flat minor to an E flat 7 would be a backdoor 2/5 that would lead into an F. So again, going into this F right here, we'd go. I think I'm going to hate this. Flat. It's just too many chords in too small space. Fly me to the and let me among the stars. Maybe if I took out the C and put that B flat minor right there and gave myself a little bit more time, but I got a bad feeling that that melody is going to conflict with that with the chord. Yep, I just don't like it. I think that's the end. I think I just don't like it. Let's see here. Maybe we could try another one. This was, what did we say this was? An F sharp 7 before. Okay, Kendra, give us one more.
Of any of them?
Yeah, okay, hang on. Yes, before we do that, though, let's take a time out and explain why I think that happened. So this right here, this E is the flat 5. If we're going to play this, yep, 2 reasons. I got to remember the second reason, too. So the B minor, B flat minor to the E flat, all those notes in each of those chords is pretty important. And so on that B flat minor, when we were first trying to like do something a little bit weird, it was already weird enough that we were going to like a B flat minor in the like going to an F, because these are all already alterations. And then on top of that, we had to play this E right there instead of the F. So we had like to alter the alteration of the alteration of the alteration. So that made the B flat chord weird. And also we spent all this effort getting this C sharp 7. And the only thing that made that C sharp not like the weirdest, most terrible chord in the world was that we finally resolved it to that thing right there. It was already pretty weird. So we took this thing and we went, we're gonna resolve it. No, just kidding. We're gonna play a weird chord, except we're not gonna play a weird chord. We're gonna play the alteration of a weird chord. And it just like wrecked all expectations of anything whatsoever. Unless you liked the sound of it, in which case it was the right thing. Go for it. I didn't like it. But yeah, give me another dominant chord that you see. Something 7.
The A7?
The A7. I'm seeing an A7. This one over here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. The A7 is moving to a D minor. Yep.
If that one doesn't work, I can pick another one.
Let's try it. I like the idea. Yep. So, yes, let's do this. I don't think I'm going to like it, but we can talk about why. And that's just as important as getting anything that's right or sounds good here. So this A7, if we were going to say, okay, this is moving to a D chord, the flat 7 of a D would be a C 7. And if C was the 5, the 2 would be G minor. So we'd be playing G minor 7 to C7 to D. Cool. So let's try that. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, bummer. I really kind of like that. I did skip the E minor. Let's see if I still like if I put the E minor back in. In other words, hold my hand. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, I went to F. I didn't go to D minor. Sorry. In other words, hold my hand. Yeah, my hand's having a hard time getting to that D. It really wants to go G to C to F. So again, in other words, hold my hand. It doesn't sound super cool to me, but it also doesn't sound super wrong to me. And I was totally expecting it to, and I was going to tell you why. But now it doesn't matter, because in the end, all that matters is, does it sound good or not? Okay, and then I'm going to go back up and steal the chords from the top and see if we can get through this whole thing with our weird altered chords. I think this is probably enough for one day. If you got through this lesson and you were not lost at some point, cool. Hit me up. We need to do some other more complicated reharm stuff. But I'm guessing for everybody, there was at least some point in the lesson where they went, wait a second, what did he just do? So let's see what this sounds like. Okay, there's some stuff there in there. Lots of weird stuff. I think this one right here is the one that needs to grow on me the most. Darling, kiss me. In other words, darling, kiss me. The most, well, this guy over here, I don't like this one. It doesn't sound cool to me at all. I was expecting it to sound bad, and it didn't. The reason I was expecting it to sound bad is because this thing where we do like the, yes, this thing where we do the backdoor dominant thing usually works best or most compelling, or it's most commonly used. I expect it the most when it precedes a major chord. So the fact that we're going into a D minor right here made me feel like this isn't going to sound very good. And as it turns out, it doesn't sound very good. It just sounds normal-ish because those are all chords that are in the D minor scale already. And the whole like fun of this backdoor dominant thing is that it like sounds outside, or like it sounds different or weird, which is why I was gonna like it going into this thing right here. I really wanted that one to work out because it's going into a major chord, into that F major, and so it would sound weird, but it sounded weird, too weird. Not cool weird, just weird to me, unless you liked it. So I think I would get rid of these and go back to that A7 right there, or the tritone sub of the A, which was the E. No. Was I going to do that? No, that's not what I was going to do. I was going to turn this thing into a minor 2-5, so I was going to flat the 5 on this guy. I was going to go E half diminished to the D minor. I wanted to do that one because that would be like a 2-5 in the key of D minor. So that would sound something like this. I'll give you this one last thing, and then I promise I'll stop talking and let you go. Fly me to the moon. That's the one right there that surprised me. I didn't think I was gonna like that one. Jupiter and Mars. Okay, anyway. So, that's the thing I was wanting to do on that one, is the E half diminished to the A7 to D minor. So, I think I like that one better than the... Whatever. It's really about what you like. So if there was anything in there at all that made any sense, then cool. Go try that on some other song that you're working on. If there wasn't and you wish that it did, then hit me up. Let me know. Let's spend some one-on-one time and figure out how we can incorporate some of this stuff. Or if there's something in there, a lot of times what happens is we get through this entire lesson and like you try to pick up something, but really what you pick up is like, wait, hang on, that one thing, what did you do, and why did that sound the way that it sounded? I thought I knew what you were gonna do, and then that one chord, and that one chord is like the one thing you want to take away from this lesson. So if there is that one thing, then go back, see if you can figure out what in the world it was I did. If not, hit me up and we can work on it together, and then you can start incorporating that voicing or that chord or whatever into whatever other music you're working on. That's kind of the goal of all this stuff. Pick one thing, pick two things, pick three things that you really liked, and try to incorporate it in your own playing. Or just pick a different lesson, pick up something there. But till next time, explore, mess up, have fun, good luck.